Hi Math 2 students, and welcome to your 5.4 Ed Puzzle. So today we're going to be learning about complementary and supplementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles whose sum is a right angle, or 90 degrees. So that means that when you add them up, they're going to equal 90 degrees. So for example 1, it says identify a pair of complementary angles. So what you're doing is you're looking for two angles that are going to add to give you 90. So I'm looking here, and it looks like angle A and angle C are going to give me 90 because 40 plus 50 would give me 90 degrees. So for A, my two complementary angles are A and C. Then if we're looking here at B, the two complementary angles are going to be 3 and 4. Now, I don't have these angle measures. I have no idea what the measure of angle 3 and the measure of angle 4 is. However, I can see that together, these two angles make a right angle because they have that little box there. So I know that I guess I should say angle 3. Angle 3 plus angle 4 needs to equal 90 degrees. So you could tell that 3 and 4 are complementary. Then we're looking here at C. Now, of course, we got our right angle here. And if you think about it this way, you can't add anything to 90 to give you 90 except for a 0. So we know that this angle is going to be out of the question. So we're left with 55 and 35. 55 plus 35 is going to give us that 90 degrees. So our two complementary angles are going to be M and Q. So again, complementary angles are two angles whose sum adds to 90 degrees. Next, we have supplementary angles. Supplementary angles are two angles whose sum is a straight angle, or 180 degrees. So for A, it says identify a pair of supplementary angles. So I want you to look and figure out which two of these angles are going to add to give you 180. So if you look here, angle E and angle G will add to give you 180. How did I figure that out? Well, 120 plus 60 is going to give you 180. So we know angle E and G are supplementary. Then we look here at B. Well, we've got a straight angle, and we know that straight angles automatically add to 180. So that means that angle 4 plus angle 5 needs to give us 180. So our supplementary angles are angle 4 and angle 5. Next, we've got C. We need to figure out which two angles are supplementary. So I look and I'm like, well, G and H will add to 180, right? 100 plus 80 will give me 180. So I know that angle G and angle H are supplementary. And then J and K, which is 110 and 70, also add to 180. So we have another pair, which is angle J and angle K. So we've got two pairs here. All right. So now let's go through and rock through example 3. It says identify pairs of numbered angles that are related as follows. So complementary angles. So remember, complementary angles need to add up to 90. So first off, I want to point out, notice how none of these angles have any numbers. So you have to kind of look for the little box to know that it's 90, or just look for a straight angle knowing that that is 180. So for my complementary angle, that's going to be angles 2 and angles 3. And I know that because these two angles add up to 90. Because they got that little box there. Then they ask for supplementary angles. So for supplementary, you're going to look for a straight angle. And it looks like here, I've got two angles that add up to 180. That's going to be angle 5 and angle 4. Then they ask for vertical angles. Now this is very tricky Okay, now we talked about how for vertical angles, you need to have an X. All right, so when you're doing vertical angles, it needs to be kind of a perfect X. It can't be something cutting through. So if we look here, 5 and 3 are going to be good examples of vertical angles. But let's talk about why 4 doesn't have a vertical angle, right? We see this X going through. Let me draw it in there. Usually the vertical angles come in pairs, but if you look, right, the 5 and 3 are across from each other, but the angle across from the 4 is split up, right? It's split up into 1 and 2. So 4 doesn't actually have a vertical angle buddy. All right. And then adjacent angles are going to be 2 angles that are right next to each other. So there's a lot of pairs of adjacent angles, but we could go ahead and just say 1 and 2 because we've got 2 angles right next to each other. And then we've got a linear pair. So a linear pair is going to be 2 angles that add up to 180. So we could actually come up with a couple of these. We already said 5 and 4. But if you look, we could also do 4 and 3. So you could see 5 and 4, and then angle 4 and angle 3. Which also, we could have said that angle 4 and 3 are also supplementary as well, because they add up to that 180. So there really was more than one answer to a lot of these. All right. Next, we've got a couple of theorems. The idea that all right angles are congruent, which makes sense. All right angles are 90 degrees, so that means that all right angles are going to be congruent. Then it says if 2 angles are congruent and supplementary, then each is a right angle. Okay, so where did they come up with that? Well, think about it this way. If something's supplementary, they need to add up to 180, right? And if the 2 angles that add up to 180 are congruent, that means that that 180 needs to be evenly split, right? So if we split that in 2, we automatically get our 90. So that means that any pair of supplementary angles that are congruent are automatically 90 degrees. All right. So now let's go ahead, try example 4. It says, name an angle or angles that are supplementary to angle AOD. So first off, let's check out, we've got AO and D. So they want something that is supplementary to that. So I'm looking, well, this is definitely a straight angle, right? So it looks like angle DOC is going to be supplementary. Where did I come up with that? Well, these 2 angles make a straight angle. All right. And so you can see that in order to get to 180, you're going to need that DOC. We've got adjacent and congruent to AOE. So AOE is this guy. Now, let's think about it this way. We're going to have to use that theorem up here that if 2 angles are congruent and supplementary, then each is a right angle. And we could say, well, if we look, we've got a straight angle here. And we also know that AOE is 90 degrees. All right. So that means that the other angle that makes up this 180 has to be 90 degrees. So we could say EOC. EOC has to be 90 degrees. So that means that it is adjacent next to that AOE and congruent because they're both 90. So we could say angle EOC. Next it says supplementary to EOA. So let me erase all this craziness I've drawn. And we're talking about angle EOA. All right. So they want something that is supplementary to EOA. Well, if we look here, we need something that's going to add up to 180. Well, it looks like angle EOC is going to add that up to 180 as well. Right? EOA and EOC will both add up to give you that straight angle. Then they're looking for something that is complementary to EOD. So let's draw that in. We've got EOD. So we know that it needs to add up to 90 degrees. Now keep in mind, we've already shown that angle EOC is 90 degrees. So we know that this guy here is going to be 90. So we know that EOD, which is this guy, plus DOC will give us that 90-degree angle. So that means that EOD is going to be complementary to DOC. And then we're looking for a pair of vertical angles. So hopefully this one's pretty easy. We're looking for that nice, pretty X. And I would say that we've got a vertical. Again, you're going to want to look for an X like this. All right. So we've got this guy and this guy. So we'll say AOB and angle DOC are vertical angles. All right, we're getting there, guys. You're doing a good job. So for example 5, it says find the complement and supplement of the given angle if possible. So to find the complement, you would simply do 90 minus your given angle. Actually, sorry, my writing's pretty thick there. So you're going to do your given, or I'm sorry, you're going to do 90 minus your given to find its complement. So for this guy, you would do 90 minus 20, you get 70 degrees. To find your supplement, you're going to do 180 minus your given. So in this case, you would get 160, because I would do 180 minus 20. And that makes sense, because if you do 20 plus 70, you get your 90. 20 plus 160, you get your 180. So let's keep rocking and rolling. Now we've got 45. 90 minus 45 gives us 45 degrees. 180 minus 45 is going to give you 135. All right, so go ahead. I want you guys to try this one. I want you to find the complement of 89 and find the supplement of 89. So you should have gotten 1 degree for the complement and 91 degrees for the supplement. And then here it just says, it's pretty much what I wrote up here. All right, it says, well, for any number, how would you find the complement? You just do you do 90 minus that number. To find the supplement, you do 180 minus that number. All right, so now we've got some word problems here. So they tell us that angle ABC is complementary to angle DEF. So let's stop and think about what that means. That means that ABC plus DEF need to equal 90 because they're complementary. Then they tell us that ABC is equal to 2x plus 2 and DEF is equal to 3x minus 7. And they want us to solve for x and find the measure of each angle. So we've already kind of got an equation set up here. If they're complementary, we know we can add them up and set them equal to 90. So let's do that. We're going to say 2x plus 2 plus 3x minus 7 equals 90. So then you get 5x minus 5 equals 90. You get 5x equals, oops, that should be a 5, not a 9. 5x equals 95. And 95 divided by 5 is going to give us 19. So we get that x is equal to 19. So then to find the measure of ABC, I need to plug 19 in for x. So I'm going to do 2 times 19 plus 2. 2 times 19 plus 2 is going to give us 40. So we know angle ABC is going to be equal to 40 degrees. So now I want you to go ahead and find angle DEF. Keep in mind that x is 19. So you should have gotten that angle DEF is 50. Now there's two ways you could have found this. You could have plugged in 19 for x, or you could have said, well, DEF is the complement to ABC, so I could just do 90 minus 40 and get 50. Whichever way you solved, that's more than perfect. Hopefully you got the right answer. All right, now we've got that angle 1. For example 7, we got that angle 1 is supplementary to angle 3. So that means that angle 1 plus angle 3, needs to equal 180. How do I know that? Supplementary means 180. Don't forget, complementary is 90, supplementary is 180. They tell us that angle 1 is 5x plus 1, angle 3 is 7x plus 14, and they want us to do the same thing, solve. So we'll say 5x plus 1 plus 7x plus 14 equals 180. So you end up with 13x plus 15 equals 180. I'm going to do minus 15. I get 13x equals 180 minus 15, which is 165. Then we'll divide by 13, and I get a gross number. Did I mess up here? Let's see. Oh, I did mess up. This should be a 12. I can't add. Right. Yep, so let's see if that fixes it. 165 divided by 12. That still is disgusting. What the heck? Maybe we just get a gross answer for this. Because I got x is 13.75. Let me just double check that I didn't mess something up here. Plus 14 equals 180. 5x plus 1. Okay. Oh, this is what the problem is. Oh, goodness. Yep, okay, I did get 13.75 again. So I just want to double check. All right, so now we can go ahead and find the measure of angle 1. All right, so we can do 5 times 13.75 plus 1. Which is going to give us 69.75. And then to find angle 3, you could either plug in 13.75, or we could just do 180 minus the 69.75, which gives me 110.25 degrees.